just to let people trickle in. So I'll talk about now what you need. You're gonna need about a cup and a quarter flour, probably a little bit more, or 200 grams if you have a scale. You're gonna need 3 eggs, a little bit of salt if you want it. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry about it. Then you'll need like a knife or a bench scraper if you have either. And
Hannelore, what's a bench scraper?
It's this little guy. You use it to scrape up stuff, cut stuff.
I think I have that for like painting downstairs.
Yeah, I have one for the kitchen. And then additionally, you're going to need either a Saran wrap or a plastic bag or small Tupperware, something that you can keep like airtight and have relatively little air in would be perfect.
Do things need to set up, or can you eat the pasta like right away?
You can eat it right away. We do have 2 kind of like rest periods for. I'm going to do them for like between 5 to 10 minutes. But ideally, each of them, the first one would be like up to an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 15 minutes at a minimum, and then the second one would probably be 5 minutes. But I'm going to do 2 5-minute ones because I found that works just about fine for showing a bunch of people how to do stuff.
Yeah. Cool. All right, let's give people like 3 more minutes. I'll rename myself to my own name just because it bothers Nancy, not because I care. But she's always calling me, "You're still named Nancy." I'm like, I don't care. I think people know I'm not Nancy, but but now I'm Catherine. We could all change our names. We can all just be whoever we want to be on Zoom. Just be ourselves. And I'm recording this, so you'll be able to upload it, download it, send it out to people if you guys have fun. Okay, I think we have, let's wait till exactly 6:05. Show us the rest of your kitchen. It's so cute.
Oh, I mean, there's not much to it. Here's my like island. I have my computer on it right now.
Yeah.
There's stuff that I'm going to be using and also fruit. And then there's like fridge, all that.
Very modern.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
People are silly in the chat. As always, you guys are welcome to ask questions in the Q&A, and I can feed them to Hannelore as we go, and I'll save ones that are like more general for the end. So if you haven't been on one of these before, that's how it works. At the bottom there, when you hover over the bottom of the page on Zoom, you'll see the Q&A. And Hannelore or I can share our screens, but you guys cannot do that, so you probably don't even have that option. But the Q&A is where you're going to want to put questions, and the chat is just for chatting, obviously. So try not to put the questions in the chat, but with a smaller group like 15, 16 people like this is going to be, we'll be fine either way. And I was going to make pasta too, but I think I will not make pasta because I don't want to not be moderating in a way that prevents us from getting weirdos putting Nazi symbols on our Zoom call again. So we were Zoom bombed the other day, for anyone that doesn't know that happened, which we hadn't seen before. So now we know how to deal with it, but I sort of need to be present for that. All right. Oh, someone said they randomly guessed 3 eggs and they were right. Because I think we just said eggs in our.
Oh, yes. We did say eggs, but 3 eggs is what we're going to use.
Yeah. All right, go for it, Hannelore. Start off with
cool. So
you, the things, the stuff.
Let's get started here. So I have this for me and myself. I just have a bowl on top of the scale. And I'm going to weigh out 200 grams of flour, but everyone else, to get really close to that, it's just a cup and a quarter of all-purpose flour. And then from there, we are going to take our first egg, and this one we're going to separate. So separate out the yolk and put that in first. If you mess up somehow and get the whole egg, in, that's totally fine because we're going to do that in a second. So yolk in, and then after that yolk, we're going to do 2 whole eggs. These are large eggs. And then wash your hands off.
For exactly 35 seconds or whatever we're supposed to do.
Oh, I mean, no, it's just egg. Egg's not gonna give you the virus. And then like half teaspoon of salt if you're going to. And then
why would you not use salt, Hannelore? Why would you not use salt?
It's just kind of a preference thing. So the salt, because like you're gonna ideally salt the water when you cook the pasta anyways. But there's not, it doesn't like affect the dough itself to add a little bit of salt. Grab something to mix it up with. I'm using a fork because I didn't think ahead, but usually I use a fork anyways. So get it all kind of like starting to incorporate and mix up, and eventually it'll start to get to a point where it's pretty darn sticky and you can handle it a little bit without it getting too stuck to you. And then we're going to start using our hands to get into that and incorporate more flour and get all this flour hydrated. So now I'm moving to just like using my hand to kind of, it's starting the whole kneading process. I'm just like folding the dough back on itself repeatedly. In total, we'll probably knead for about 5 minutes to get the dough ready. But I'll talk about that when we're closer to it. People make pasta with a lot of different kind of flour. I use all-purpose flour because it's cheap and available, and it doesn't make good pasta without egg, I've found. Where if you use semolina flour, which is rather high protein, it'll hold up really well, even with just water instead of egg.
You can make pasta with just water and flour?
Yeah, if you do it with like all-purpose flour, it ends up kind of mushy. But with like semolina, it'll end up pretty darn solid. But like buckwheat flours and buckwheat noodles, which is an entirely different process, only uses water.
Mm.
And like, well, water and like baking soda, essentially. So I like to, at this point, it's pretty covered in flour, but if I work it out, it's not sticking to me too much. And then I like to just turn everything out onto my surface. If you don't have a decent sized surface and want to keep it in the bowl, that's totally fine. But then I start folding and turning, just to keep start the kneading process, incorporate more flour, and get the gluten development going, because that's kind of how we get all of that chewy wonderfulness that we want out of noodles. Just through this process of kneading the dough so it's nice and bouncy.
So you really want to get all the entire 1 cup or 200 grams or
not necessarily. It really it's just kind of there if you need it. Really, the feel that you're looking for is at the end of the whole kind of kneading process. Is you want a dough that's kind of tacky. Like it shouldn't stick to you, but it should have a sticky feel.
Hmm.
Like old tape that doesn't want to work. Okay. I was hoping there'd be other people to talk because this will just get kind of repetitive.
Maybe I can. Jennifer says ours isn't becoming a ball very fast, so I think people do just need time.
Okay, I wouldn't worry about it. I guess I can't like see what you're doing necessarily, but it can take a while. Because like I've been doing this for like a decade, so I just kind of have probably several things that I can't explain exactly what I'm doing. But I wouldn't worry so much unless you used like 3 whole eggs, and you might want to add some more flour.
Nancy says it's very soothing watching you knead dough. Shell says that she's heard that flaxseed in water can work as an egg substitute. Could be a good vegan alternative.
Yeah, anything that's really part of, it's a couple things of where you are adding fat, protein, and water. And it just turns out that eggs are pretty good for that. But people will use like xanthan gums and things like that as like a vegan alternative for egg noodles specifically, which I guess is what we're making. So yeah, that's totally.
That's a good question. Like for those of us who are only people that have ever bought different types of noodles, we're making egg noodles. So it's not going to come out like spaghetti. It's going to come out like a ramen noodle.
You know, it's honestly going to come out like neither. It's going to be more like small. I would compare it to orzo a little bit just because it's a little bit thicker. Because the shape that we're making cavatelli is kind of like a curved shape. But it'll end up just, especially with like the time we're not giving it to rest, it'll end up kind of thick, but it still tastes pretty good and it holds sauce well. So
I hear a dog drinking water.
Yeah, that's my dog.
What kind of dog is it?
Pit bull. Her name's Maya. She's 3 years old.
Mallory Copeland says Maya is thirsty and perfect.
Yeah, she is thirsty, and JBJ, she is perfect. Yeah. Okay, so I'm at a point where my dough's tacky. So I'm kind of like removing the rest of the flour from the situation and adding as needed. But for now, I'm just kneading it still, trying to get it to a point where it's a little difficult to work.
Some of my son's friends are trying to get on to watch pasta making. I'm like, you guys are really late.
They could catch up. There's a waiting period.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so it's kind of, it feels a little sticky. It's hard to see stickiness, but if I press it, it should bounce back a little bit. That's how we know it's ready. Since it's not doing that, it still needs to be worked more. Or you can kind of like, it has a little like bounce to it when you stretch it. Are good ways to see just how developed or not developed the gluten is. It's also kind of like a very eggy dough, so it'll take a bit longer. The fat content kind of like helps and hurts. The way it hurts is it can get in the way of gluten development and can get in the way of the dough coming together entirely. But it also adds a ton of flavor and makes everything better in life.
How's everybody doing? Do people need a lot more time with their dough probably? Because it looks like
Yeah,
Hannelore.
how are people doing? Like I'm getting pretty close to ready.
I think they're too floury. We're 1 minute out. Okay, great. So people are starting to make progress. I feel like I want to go start making some too because I feel like no one's coming to say mean things to us on this chat. Mallory said she thought it was going to be gallery view, so she just came to watch and be disruptive. No, it's not gallery view, Mallory, because we've tried that and people just come to watch and be disruptive. So unfortunately.
But not people we want to come and watch and be disruptive.
Not necessarily people, yeah. I'm going to start some pasta dough too.
Okay, so now if you look, I press indent and it springs back. So it's ready to, I use the plastic bag because I use the same one for all the pasta I make. And I just get some of the air out, I zip it up, and I set it down and I'll wait for like 5 minutes.
5 minutes of wait time. Who's playing bingo? Who's turning in their bingo cards? I've gotten like 7, 8 maybe. There we go. Couple people, yeah.
What's this about bingo cards?
Oh, so once a week there's a bingo, a sequester bingo. So you have to get bingo with what you've done. So if you've skated outside, if you've worn RCR gear all day, if you've put your jersey on, if you've cut your own hair is one that's coming out this week in the bingo.
Oh dear.
Yeah, if you've made sourdough, like I have this sourdough from Death from Boots. So I didn't make it, and I think I already killed it. It's been 1 day, and I think it's dead because it's not bubbling anymore. So, but I would have a bingo still square for this, right? Because I actually do have sourdough here in my hands. So,
yeah, I mean, it's probably, I don't know, sourdough can be pretty hardy to some things. It kind of depends.
Jennifer says, are we refrigerating our dough ball while it's resting, or we're just leaving?
You can, but it'll rest faster outside of the fridge, so that's why I'm leaving it out. But if you're like, oh, I'm gonna make this beforehand and then make dinner later, like 5 or 6 hours later, then you can totally just leave it in the fridge. Pasta dough will keep like a couple days, like 4 days in the fridge, I would say. But if you freeze it right after making it, it'll keep for a couple weeks.
And when you make pasta from homemade pasta dough, you don't want to keep, how long is the shelf life of it after it's been cooked?
After it's been cooked, it's like anything else where like leftovers, it's like 4 days.
Yeah.
About there. You can also shape the pasta. I have some that I made earlier that I'm drying. My dog thinks they're treats. That I'm drying. Let me find one that I can like show off a little bit. Just to see how well they dry. This is kind of like it's hard to see in the light. This is the shape they kind of end up. It's a little curl.
So cute. I want to make gnocchi with my son. Do you know how to do that?
I haven't in a long time, but
yeah, he's obsessed with it at restaurants and stuff, but I know it's like the cheapest thing ever to throw together.
Yeah, it's just like flour and potato, if I remember correctly.
Right. Nancy wants to know, do you make pasta for fun or for work or for both?
Just for fun. I was like, as like a very, very young child, it was like one of the only things I would eat. And then in high school, one of my exes got me a pasta laminator, and then I just kind of like started doing it, and now it's like 10 years later and I'm still doing it all the time because it's cheap and easy and tasty.
Yeah. What's to you the difference between the homemade pasta and when you just dry noodles?
So it's usually because most like extruded noodles, which is like what most dried noodles are, are just like water and semolina. They're not quite as filling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really doable with fresh pasta without drying it to get that kind of like al dente that people kind of want usually. It's still like chewy and got some stuff to it, but it's not quite the same.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on like the texture you're going for, what you want to do with it. Because I still use dried pasta that I bought at the store every once in a while because it's still pretty cheap and it also is just way faster.
Okay, gang, how much longer do we need to let our pasta rest? Because I have an idea for our interim activity.
I have like 1 more minute, but we could probably go like 3 or 4 longer.
Okay, so I'm going to play a video that describes, I think, maybe Hannelore's childhood of only wanting to eat pasta. It's a song that I found recently. John Mulaney, the comic, did a Christmas special, which most every parent I know thought was horrific and would not let their children watch, but I thought it was hysterical, and we watched it many, many times. So here comes a song. Get ready.
Hey, Sack Lunch
Wait,
Bud.
hold on. I'm gonna share my screen through the magic of Zoom. This one's not offensive, so lucky you guys, but you should watch the rest of it because, yeah, it's pretty funny.
Hey, John. I thought you had therapy.
No, apparently my therapist is out of town for the month. So I get to eat lunch with you. And lunch is the best part of the day.
Not for everyone. Some people find mealtime quite difficult, Mulaney.
What got into you? Oh, do you have one of those allergies? Because this is chock full of peanuts.
I'm sorry. I flew off the handle there. It's just, I only like one food. And I think it's gonna make my life so hard.
Is there another set? Am I paying for this?
I hate to make a scene at a restaurant, but there's only one meal that I ever want. Just noodles with butter and not too much, and they have to be the tube kind I won't touch. We were once on a cruise and the waiters got to know me.
Let me know when you've had enough.
Family ordered bring me macaroni.
Yeah, that was basically me as a kid.
Noodles with a little bit of butter. I'll lap in a cruise ship pizza, but without a rudder. Yeah, plain plated noodles with a little bit of butter. It's the only thing I'll eat. I've tried steak and chicken.
All right.
Dishes, but I just want my noodles, even though they're not.
So yes, I highly recommend that show. It is somewhat offensive though to some people.
Sack lunch is high art.
Oh, good. I didn't hear you say that before.
Oh, that was Anya who said that.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
how are
it's high art.
people
Okay, back to
doing
pasta.
on their pasta resting?
Yeah, how's everybody doing? Give us a thumbs up. Nancy says that's her kid. Nancy, you would love that show. You should watch it. Okay, so now you're throwing yours up like a ball because
I'm just waiting.
I think we can continue. And I'm gonna
Okay.
start at the beginning and try to catch up.
Cool. So we're back. Our dough's here. It might be stickier. If it is, that's totally fine. Because what we're looking for, sorry, I'm just trying to fiddle with this a little bit. Okay, so it should be maybe a little sticky, maybe not, but it should be relatively relaxed. I'm gonna cut it into eighths, just to make sort of eighths. I'm gonna take the 2 middle parts and cut them in half. Just for working purposes, and then take one of those sections and put the rest either like under your saran wrap or under a bag, just so it's not getting tons and tons of exposure to air. So we have our one, and I'm going to start rolling it out. Got a little bit. So my dough is actually a little, it's not tacky enough. So I'm wetting my hands a little bit, drying them off so they're like damp. And then I'm going to use that to get the dough back to being at least tacky enough to roll out on the counter. This is kind of like, so why you wait for it to rest is that it's not rolling out super easily. Because you want to get it pretty small, like 1/3 of an inch or less.
So like the size of a drinking straw.
Yeah, that actually is a really good way to think about it. Because this is probably like, I would say like one of those boba straws is right about where it's at right now. But we want it a lot thinner.
American drinking straw, even though we're not allowed to have those anymore, which makes sense. I'm for that. I think that makes sense.
So I'm going to call it here with this thickness. It's less thick than a finger, which is a good portion. And then I'm going to cut off about like 1/3 of an inch pieces. So they're little pillows. So they're like little pillowy shapes at the moment, which is great. I turn the pasta every few cuts. So I turn it like a 1/4 turn so that we're not like making too much of an indent on the like roll, because it'll kind of flatten and be harder to shape.
I want to take this moment to tell everyone that the grocery outlet in Milwaukee has the double-sized bottles of Yellowtail Merlot, which is totally decent, not amazing, decent, for $6.99. Just so you know.
They are definitely decent. So I have all these little
They're so
nuggets,
cute.
and then so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the like press at the back. So I've got kind of like the back part of this little like pillow under my thumb, and then I'm going to press and flick so that it's been flicked forwards and it's like kind of curled like that. It takes a little bit of practice to work up to where you're just kind of, and you're working, so like the cut part is on the side. So you'll get into a rhythm eventually. And ones that'll look not quite as good will be because like you didn't potentially press enough on the way out of that. Some people also like to do it with a finger instead. It doesn't work for me that way.
And so making the fun shape like this is just making it so you have something.
So it's not just like,
also
I mean,
thinning it out.
This is a pasta shape. It's just
right.
Like, they're usually a lot smaller than this, but that is also just a shape that people use. But it's that it's like, it's thinner, there's more surface area, because then it's kind of like cupped or rolled, and you can fit pasta in it. And like at this is the point when I would start boiling water if you were gonna just like serve them basically immediately, but you can let them sit for a little bit when you're like boiling the water, and it's no big deal.
Hannelore, could you put the camera right next to your thumb when you do a flick?
Oh yeah.
Request from the crowd.
Let me do it with my offhand. So, here we go. That one came out a little awkward, but this is my offhand to get the camera lighting right. Whoop. There's that.
So the amount of dough we made, is that like a portion size for one person or a portion size for?
I would say this is like 2 to 3 people's worth, or
okay.
I would actually say up to like 4. Because like the last time I made a batch of about this size, I like dried it and then did like no contact handoffs to like 4 friends. So
Okay, so does it puff up a little bit when it's cooked?
it does a little bit.
Yeah,
And that's why the previous recipe that I did to like test this out was just 2 eggs, or was an egg and an egg yolk, I think. So I added another egg just so it would puff up a little bit less. If the pasta is too tacky, that just means you need to work more flour in. So now I'm starting on my next one. So if it's too tacky, that just means that it hydrated more while it was resting, which is totally fine. That is something that can happen. It really depends on like your kitchen, the flour that you're using. So you can see now that like this next piece is rested a bit more, it's behaving a little better.
People are saying it's super whimsical. They love the little shapes. They're so cute and fun.
Yeah. I don't know, that's what I like about them. They're fun and kind of chewy and just kind of like homey, rustic. Not something you see very often.
I can picture these with like mushroom, garlic, onion, and butter.
Yeah, like the last time that let's see, what did I do last time for these? I think last time I actually just did like butter. It was like a butter sauce.
You and the child from the Mulaney show, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because what's pasta if you can't just eat it with butter? So I'm just kind of scooting these off to the side so I can have more space for the rest of these, and then I'm just gonna start flicking away. This is also like something that's like definitely something kids can learn, because you're gonna make like almost 100 of these in one batch. So
Hannelore, what do you do if your pasta's too tacky and it sticks to the knife?
I covered that a little bit, but it's mostly just add more flour. You might have to work it and rest it a little bit more. But if it's just a little too sticky, you can get away with just dusting some flour onto the dough and just continuing from there, and then dusting every once in a while if it still needs more. But depending on how tacky it is, you'll just need more flour, and you'll have to let it rest again.
Yeah, it's pretty malleable all the way through, right? Because you can just keep adding. Or
it's pretty easy to adjust compared to a lot of other doughs where it's kind of, you essentially have one shot with some doughs if you don't get the hydration right. But pasta, thankfully, is a little more forgiving.
Can you make spaghetti type noodles out of these? A couple people are asking.
Yeah, I use basically the same recipe. Here's my laminator. I use the same thing to make like linguine and other things. I guess fettuccine. Sorry. But yeah, you can use the same pasta dough for that. If you're patient and have a rolling pin, you can do that yourself even, where you just laminate it by hand.
Casey says, wait, I missed it. Can you put this through a pasta maker? I'm typing an answer. Yeah.
Yes, yes, you can.
It's hard to do something and listen to everything we're saying, I think. So I think all the silence is probably totally fine because most people are trying to adjust their dough and yeah.
Yeah. Because it's kind of, I don't know, it's similar to like making bread where your first attempt at it might not necessarily come out super duper perfect and take a little bit longer, but and so, I mean, this is pretty much it. You make the rest the same way that I've been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you boil some salted water
Mm-hmm.
and put them in for like 2 to 3 minutes at most.
Oh,
And
wow.
they'll
Okay.
be- Yeah, fresh pasta does not take long. Really, the best way to check is just do, like, you pull one out, taste it. It shouldn't taste like dough.
Right. So there's no floating kind of thing. You're rapidly boiling water, putting a little salt in it, boiling, set your timer for 2.5 minutes, try one, take them out.
Basically, yeah.
Mhm. And I know you said it earlier, Hannelore, but someone was asking, and I can't quite recall. Do you have to dry them? Do you just put them in an airtight container, like to save them for another time?
I leave them out on like a bamboo mat
Mm-hmm.
myself for like a day, and then transfer them to a container to leave open.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend it with these just because they're kind of thick. But that's how I dry other pasta. I just wanted to try it with these because I made a lot to practice and or prepare for this and didn't want to eat them all in one sitting.
Now I'm starting to think like if I had a hole puncher that was like hearts and stars and
Oh yeah, you could totally do that.
could use this kind of dough to make like Lucky Charms pasta.
Oh yeah, totally. And then so like after you've made all these shapes, if you want to save it for later, I would recommend putting them out on a baking tray and freezing them. And then once they're frozen, transfer them to like a bag or something like that.
You've got about 21 minutes left in the hour. And we said if we went over on this one, it was fine, but just so you know.
Cool. We're probably not going to go over.
Mm.
That should be it. I can definitely hang around though and answer people's questions as they work on theirs.
That would be awesome. Today was the day, I don't know if this was an earmarked day for anyone else, but today's the day I threw away the workout schedule that's on my wall from my gym. It's like, I don't want to look at this anymore.
No, for me, it's just Animal Day or Nature Day and Animal Crossing.
Oh, was it? Yeah?
Yep, that's my earmark for today.
I'll be curious to see what the next like sequester baking trend thing is. Maybe it'll be pasta making.
I can only
Everyone
hope.
sharing that with each other.
So yeah, first it was, well, what was first? Was bread first or was the whipped coffee first?
Oh yeah, what coffee was before the bread, wasn't it? Yeah, and then I was like suddenly sourdough everywhere. So again with the bingo, so if you get a sequester bingo, Hannelore, all across in any direction on the card, in the middle is this free space, pretty easy to do. You just email me a photo of it, and I will randomly draw someone to win GA tickets to roller derby when we open back up that I'll mail out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which are totally transferable. You can give those away if it's, you know, you're there helping me on the regular all the time anyway. It's a great thing to mail out to someone else in the community that needs a pick-me-up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what bout won't I be at once this all kind of like kicks back again?
Yeah. We also just heard from Bonnie. She's going to screen the movie, the Bonnie Thunders movie, this coming, actually next Sunday. So I'll post about that coming up, but that should be pretty fun.
Oh, cool.
I actually did not know there was a Bonnie Thunders movie, and I've been here for 3 years, so.
I thought it was a pretty recent thing.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I think so. I could be wrong.
I will learn a lot more about it tomorrow.
Yeah, brand new. I feel like
cool.
it was like right at the beginning of March or the end of February.
Nancy knows everything. So Hannelore, I think I'm going to end up making the dough right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to do the flick pasta part with Max later when he's home. Like he'll be home day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I can just save it in a plastic bag in the fridge.
Yes, that
Cool.
should be totally possible. It'll look a little different. The like outside might get a little gray. That's totally fine. Nothing's gone wrong. The outside is just oxygenated a little bit.
So just knead it back up and.
Yeah, knead it back up. It'll be a little grayer, just kind of like indefinitely after that, but it won't taste any different.
Okay, cool. I'm wondering really wacky things because I'm me, so I apologize. But like, I have a colander. Could I press pasta through it?
You could, but extruded dough is usually drier because you're not like developing and relying on gluten to hold shape. You're just kind of like relying on that pressure. So it is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd still like work together the dough and then rest it.
But you don't really recommend it.
I mean, I haven't done it. You could try it. See what happens.
Anya says, say once again how to dry it if we don't want to cook it all today.
Oh, I wouldn't dry it. I would freeze it, Anya. So I'll like spread it out on a baking sheet, put it in the freezer. Once it's frozen, which will take like an hour or two, transfer it to like a bag. Just because this is a little thicker than I would usually dry a pasta for myself. I just kind of tried it. So I wouldn't recommend it because I don't know if it works. But I do know freezing it works. And then you don't have to thaw it. You just go straight from freezer to water.
Oh, I don't think you mentioned that before. That's good to know. Straight from the freezer to water and still 2 or 3 minutes.
It would be a little bit longer, but
yeah.
Still not very long. Okay, I'm on my last bit of dough. I don't know quite where everyone else is at. I know we have a lot of people just watching for the sake of being with community and all of that good stuff, which is very real.
Knowing how to do a new thing with your friends when you get back to them.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
Honestly, kneading the dough just looked really restful right now. So
It is. It's, I don't know, it's meditative.
yeah, I wanted to just do that for the next, although Max likes kneading stuff too, but I'm going to take this because I think it would be a calming moment. Hannelore, would you ever flavor pasta like with herbs and stuff? I've barely ever seen that done, but I have seen it places.
I've tried it, but flavoring the pasta itself doesn't really end up working all that well in my experience.
You just can't taste it, so it's just not worth it?
Or to be able to taste it, you have to add a lot. When you could just be, you know, flavoring the sauce.
Right.
Okay, so that I've made all my little delicious little friends here. I'm gonna start boiling some water myself.
We've got about 9 minutes in the first hour. But if people are following along and making pasta, just stay on to see how yours boils compared to Hannelore so that we all, get this right.
I could have, but I ended up, so like all total, it should be, my dough typically would weigh like, what I did, probably almost 300 grams with the 2 eggs and that. Yeah, also I may have just worked faster. It kind of depends. On those sorts of things.
Yeah, I feel like I need more flour even with my dough right away.
Maybe. How much flour did you use?
1¼ cup, and then the 3 eggs. Maybe my eggs are just a little bit bigger.
Maybe. My eggs are kind of small.
I'm just gonna flour it a little bit more. I mean, I used to be in the 4-H and I used to bake things.
And you should be fine.
I totally could do this. So does your family make homemade pasta? This is something that you developed yourself when you got the
Just me.
machine for the relationship.
Yeah, it was just me figuring it out. Feeding raw pasta to my dog.
I came out to tell Benjamin earlier, I was like, I'm going to make us pasta for dinner because I'm going to do this thing. And he was literally finishing the final touches of finishing chili with leftover beans. And so I was like,
Come on up.
We'll have both. But it'll be fun to do that. Once I saw the finger roll thing, that'll be fun to do with Max. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is pretty fun. Still not low enough for puppy can. There you go.
Hey, baby. I would like to see more dog.
Yeah, it's what people are really here for. My dog. Thanks, Marzi.
Yeah, I think it's going to take me about twice as long as it took you to knead this dough to where you had it.
Yeah, that wouldn't be terribly surprising. The first time I tried to make pasta, it took me like a couple hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing at all. I didn't, like, no one was there to like help me along, so I just kind of looked at a recipe and went with it and suffered until I figured it out.
It's actually a pretty good arm workout.
So, you know, you got to stay buff and tough during quarantine, so
Need some
make
dough.
lots of dough. Good.
Yeah.
Good shoulder workout, really.
Yeah. After I broke my wrist and it healed, actually, I'm recalling now, I didn't remember this before, but that I was told to make dough.
Mm.
Yeah.
The egg is what makes the dough toothsome. Thank you, Marzi.
What does toothsome mean?
It's like chewy, something to bite through. It's not like it's not there. It's there.
Substantial.
Yeah, it's got substance to it.
I was talking to a potential renter today, and they were like, "Oh, is your place right near Oaks Park?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Oh, I actually helped organize this big bike and kayak event last November down there at the park. It was really cool." And I was like, "Yeah, I remember it because it was like a huge problem."
Oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Same. So the guy that's gonna possibly rent my place is the guy. He just brought it up, randomly, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we actually would have loved some more heads up about that event."
I don't think the VA test kitchen could handle me, but also I definitely couldn't, produce the kind of amazing recipes that they do.
What's the VA test kitchen?
It's Bon Appetit is a
Oh,
food
yeah,
magazine, and the test kitchen is what produces all their YouTube content.
Oh, okay.
And boy, I tell you, the gays, they love it. So my pasta is ready. So I'm gonna use this bowl again. And dump them on in. And then Anya sent me a picture of how hers are doing, and they look amazing.
Can we see? Or does it also have boobies in it?
No, it doesn't. But I don't know if the camera's gonna pick it up.
Oh yeah, totally. Nice work, Anya. Oh, I have a text photo of some pasta as well. Oh, hey. Fancy.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. Good job, Miller. Okay, so you're not timing it. You're just like.
No, I just kind of periodically check it. I don't take, since I'm not making bread or cake or anything, I'm not taking the cook time seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of checking them every once in a while. I pull one out.
So I'm to like halfway to your dough.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Got some more work to do here.
Okay, so it's been, I don't know how many minutes. But the last one I tried was pretty close to done. And then yeah, these are good. They're kind of like bouncy and chewy. They'll kind of, if they're not quite ready, they'll kind of like fall apart a little bit in your mouth.
Oh, instead of being chewy like with a spring.
Yeah, instead of being kind of springy, those kind of fall apart. I'm using this time to make the rest of the dinner I'm making, so don't mind me.
So can you take one of the pastas that's finished out and kind of cut it with your fingernail or a knife and sort of show us the elasticity of it?
Yeah.
Because we're pretty much all set, right?
So here's one that's kind of like weird shape. So it's like, it's kind of springy. Like it's holds together. Like it's not coming apart. When I bite into it, it's definitely got like a little bit at the very center that's not quite cooked yet. Which is fine because I'm gonna finish it in this sauce.
Oh, you're going to keep the sauce a bit and put the pasta in.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and twice the time of you, I've almost got this needed. So.
That's totally fine. You've got all the time in the world now.
It's true. I got all excited and thought I was a skilled person who could do many things. And I can do many things, but gardening's never been my thing. And I planted the lettuce like 2 weeks ago, which is way too early, and it's all died. So I guess I'll just try again.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I mean, try again.
You have outdoor space there, Hannelore?
Nope. I do have some jars that I use for indoor hydroponics, but I haven't set those up yet.
Well, you know that Benjamin, my partner, is teaching a class on growing your allotted household's worth of weed in your home for very little money.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah, that'll be announced coming up in I'll probably get all that together tomorrow.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so maybe take that one.
I might do that.
This is great. I feel like it really helped me to know what level I need to knead it to, because I think before I watched you do it, I would have thought that this was good enough, but I know now that I need to keep working it for quite a bit longer.
It doesn't have to spring back all the way, but it does need to spring back like visibly.
Right. Yeah, and this is not there yet. And if someone wrote those words out, I wouldn't know what they meant, but I saw it happen when you did it.
It's hard for a lot of things like this to know
right
necessarily without like seeing it. So also, if you want to know what sauce I'm making for it, I'm just making a very basic marinara. Just crushed tomatoes, olive oil, black pepper, red pepper flakes, garlic. No, actually no garlic. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's not in there. And then finish with a little bit of basil.
Cool.
And that's like a simple traditional marinara.
All right, does anyone need any help? Hannelore is here for your Q&A typey questions. Everybody doing well? We still have 12 people on the call. Oh no, 11 now. So yeah, those are the people that are probably the ones that are actually making pasta with us.
You're welcome. I'm also not a chef. I use my computer all day. That's what I do for a living, and I get paid for it.
And next class by you is network security, kind of for beginners, just setting up some basic stuff, especially as we're sharing devices with children.
Yeah.
So that invite I should get all that content up tomorrow. I know I keep mentioning things that aren't yet on the list, but.
Yeah, and that one, it would be great if you could ask people for questions ahead of time.
Oh, okay, cool. I can do that.
Because then I would have stuff prepared. I wouldn't have to like flounder for content,
right?
Essentially,
like for me, I'm like throwing my kid my Kindle because he needs to read something from school, but then like my Kindle is an adult like internet searching device that I use, you know, and I message people through it, and so I find that I'm tossing around devices that he doesn't usually have access to. So that's my question, but I'll type it up in advance.
Cool.
Does anyone else need help? Do you want to have Hannelore stay on a little bit while you get through the cooking process? Can you give us a yes, please, if that's you right now? Raised hand, yep. Someone's raising their hand. We're crushing
That's
it
awesome.
over here.
I'm glad to hear that people are getting stuff from this. I'm not just talking into a camera for an hour.
Oh, cool. People are saying thanks very much and that they're all good and they're going to cook it all the time.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Oh, it's so good. It tastes like Spazi?
Spatzel. It's a
yeah.
German thing. It's pretty much Spatzel.
Yeah?
Like they're very similar.
What's the difference? What's Spatzel served with generally?
I don't think they're much different. It's just a Spatzel is, as far as I'm aware, it's an egg noodle. It's just roughly shaped.
Oh, success from Cake Bomb. Yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Hannelore.
Awesome.
I'll finish this up and I'll post a picture for you.
Yeah, great. I love that. If you've got pictures, show me Instagram, Facebook. I'll see them. I'll talk to you about them.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Hannelore. This was super fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for doing a get together where we don't have to work out.
Yeah.
Although those are great too. All right. Have a great night.
You too.
Can't wait to see you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.